Hello everyone, Burr here. With Games moving up the Champions meeting a little bit, it's time for me to start putting out these role guides. We're going to start with the Pace Chasers. If you're new here because you're coming in through the influx of Grand Live, welcome. I do Champions meeting guides too, and this one is a specific role guide. I also do a broad overview that is available on the channel if you wish, but today we're going to do a deep dive into the Pace Chasers skills, cards, and characters in particular. The other roles will be in the next couple of days in their own dedicated videos, so keep a lookout for them. We have a lot to talk about today, so without further ado, let's go and start talking about Pace Chasers. Are Pace Chasers good? Yes, they're perfectly fine. With the update of neck and neck and head on, their primary accelerations have a much better timing than they did before. Now, there is the elephant in the room that Christmas Oguri is probably going to be the best character on this track, followed closely behind by Kopana Riki, only because of stamina requirements, but those two will be pretty domineering on the track itself. But there are other options that you can do, and you can certainly compete with those two characters. It will be quite tough, but at the end of the day, you're not fighting perfect Christmas Oguris or Kopana Rikis all the time, and there are a lot of new players, so if you are able to get ahead of the general player base, you will find success with whatever you want to build. So we'll be talking about more things than just Christmas Oguri and Kopana Riki, but we will talk about those two in the Pace Chaser role as well. In particular for Kopana Riki, I know you can run her in the front runner position. There are merits to running her in the Pace Chaser position due to ease of use and the fact that head-on and angling and scheming kind of are interchangeable more or less. We'll talk about that in a future video though. In general, the strengths of Pace Chasers are the fact they have low PDM and they're generally towards the front of the pack. Of course, they have lower late race speed to compensate, but in general, you don't really have to worry about your mid race and your late race as far as pack composition because all your stuff is usually front half, whereas backliners have to start worrying about pack composition a little bit. This was alleviated a little bit in the 7.1 patches as well. Otherwise, you have access to your mid-race options on cards that you want to run anyways. This is a very big one. Agnes Tachyon Speed has the gold mid-race skill for your position, whereas late surgers have to go and grab it from a power card if they want to. Because it's on a speed card and because it's on a card that you're running because of the scenario link anyways, you basically already have your mid-race built in. And that gives you a large advantage over the late surgers, even though the late surgers may have better gambling acceleration options than you. Your only real downside is you have less options for reliable accelerations, and truly if you really want neck and neck, which is the better form of your primary acceleration, you're going to have to find that on a power card. So that's kind of your trade-off. You have your mid-race. If you really want to go in min-max, you're going to have to go and grab it from a power card. Otherwise, the other standard Pace Chaser stuff applies. You have a worse HP conversion ratio, which means you have a higher stamina requirement by about 50 to 75 stamina. Christmas Oguri doesn't really care about this because she gets 3 recoveries anyways, but you probably will have to supplement with some recoveries. This also makes you rather vulnerable to stamina debuffs, and also it is tougher to acquire your excels. We talked about that in the power card analysis. For stat suggestions, I have updated them a little bit. Note that I've kind of lowered the power and wit a little bit more. In general, power and wit are kind of interchangeable because there's no uphills or downhills. I would try to hit 1,000 of each bare minimum, but usually you will probably get between the 1,100 to 1,200 in at least one of the two stats. Also note, I forgot that 901 is actually a threshold on this. You do not need that threshold. We've seen in previous Champions meeting that chasing these thresholds at the cost of other stats, if you're not hitting your minimums, is not recommended whatsoever, and it doesn't really matter. What you should do is you should chase the thresholds after you're hitting your other stat requirements. This one in particular is helpful though because 901 stamina, when you go and take Great Mood into account, is only 868, so I'm just kind of updating that 850 requirement up to 868. Note that 850 does take in about 50 to 100 stamina normally. For Pace Chasers is closer to 50 for debuffs, but a full debuff suite will be about 240 stam, with a murmur being about 100 stam. So realistically, you're kind of looking around 800 in a gold for most of the Pace Chasers is what I've been finding as a sort of guideline to do so, with 600 guts in this case. But you're kind of gonna have to play by ear, do some room matches, see how many debuffers you're really facing. At the end of the day, you can't really go and plan for quad stamina debuffer. You're just going to lose too much other stats. But in general, you need a good amount of stamina. Try to pump your speed as high as possible and then get a balance of power and wit. For your accelerations, The main two that you're going to have are Nimble Nav and Head On. And usually the white ones are what you're going for these. Some combination of these two combined with the other various secondary accelerations are usually going to be enough. The problem is that Christmas Oguri is going to have 0.3 with some speed carryover. Kopana Riki is going to have like a 0.25 acceleration leak. So the way you can really push yourself ahead is somehow getting a gold version of these two or getting enough secondary accelerations to supplement them. So Daiska Power, if you're able to borrow it, is an option, although it's very difficult to run a non-speed in Wit Car, and it takes a lot of practice. As you saw on the stream I did, I was getting frustrated with it, and then I took a night to sleep on it, started working in the morning, trying to figure stuff out, and now I've kind of figured out the flow of running a utility card like that. There will be future videos on that, but in general, you have one utility slot, and if you're able to grab this as a utility card for neck and neck, it's a good option, not required whatsoever. Otherwise, forward march, usually the white version of this is all you need because it's 0.2 versus 0.3. That's a secondary acceleration. The difference is that there is a dead zone because it is twice the timing of neck and neck now, but otherwise this is fine. This is also a no stopping me map, of course, because the final corner is far enough along in the late race that you can proc no stopping me off of people. Otherwise, if you somehow get the Got the Spirit White from the dirt hints in the scenario, you can grab that. You can also supplement by any pass acceleration ultimate, particularly Special Week is actually rather strong because if it does actually pass late, you get some current speed as well. So it kind of works as a pseudo secondary acceleration to pair with whatever you're hitting primarily. Otherwise, after that, you can go for Lucky Pace. However, Smart Falcon does exist, so you are unlikely to consistently get Lucky Pace. And if you go for Lucky Pace, make sure you are grabbing Groundwork because you need early base acceleration, Shrewd Step as well, in order to try to win that Lucky Pace battle. Also, you may need to grab the straight skills to hopefully PDM break immediately to get out. There's a lot of variables to that. Not the topic of this video. Do note that it exists. It's probably not the primary strategy of getting angling and scheming. Note that final corner excels, if you hit a 0.2 or a 0.4, you're going to start losing immense amounts of value. Even though this redshift says 0.88 lengths, when you get 0.2, it goes down to about 0.3, and when you get 0.4, it goes down to like 0.11, which is less value than a white skill. So redshift is not really worth it. Condor's Fury, of course, is wrong positioning as well, but also best timing is redshift timing. And finally, shooting for victory, Yoshino Flower Ultimate, all those second half corners are not going to work either. For Festival Inherit, because this was a topic last Champions meeting, it's not efficient. What you're seeing on the Sims, if you've actually been looking it up, is when Gourmand actually late procs, because you're probably using Gourmand as one of your triggers. The thing is that 90 to 95% of the time, Gourmand is not going to trigger in the last 100 meters of the race. I guess it's like 10% of the time it will. Otherwise, you are proccing at the 777 mark, and the 777 mark, due to the shortened length of Festival Oguri Cap Inherit of being 3 seconds instead of 5 seconds, means that your leak just isn't that far. It is only a half length, and yes, it gives you 0.05 recovery. That's really not going to work, and it's very expensive for just getting a half length's worth of value in the times that it works, because you're also doing 4 wit checks because it is not your ultimate, and Uma Square is also too early, so you can't take Uma Squared as a backup because it will proc over here, which means you will get no leak whatsoever. You will get no speed carryover, although that's also 0.05, and you will get no acceleration zone. So Festival Inherit is even worse than the last CM. I did a whole video on why it was bad last CM, or the last time this was relevant as well. This time it's even worse because that Uma Squared timing doesn't help you whatsoever. There's some other options. You can Corner Con. If you're going to pick one of these gamble accelerations, Corner Connoisseur would be the one to do. It's basically a 1 in 4 to give you value whatsoever and a 1 in 6 to give you good value. I guess there is merit to it. The problem is it's only on cards that are a little tough to grab. Steady Gate as well. If you get the white version of the dirt version of Rushing Gale, or of second half, it's basically Thunderbolt Step, but front half and dirt. It's a little bit too gamble as well. It's about a 1 in 8, and then Rushing Gale is, of course, a 1 in a million, it seems like, because it can proc at any point on any straight, and so it's a 1 in 3, I guess, times a 1 in 6 for like a 1 in 12 to 1 in 18, somewhere around there. I didn't do the math on these, but you can kind of see the visuals. I guess Steady Gate's like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so 1 in 6 Steady Gate, 1 in 7 Corner Con, 1 in 12 for Rushing Gale. Take those at your own risk. They're usually really expensive, and as you're finding, because we're buying recoveries and stuff, we don't really have as many skill points as we wish to when we have good parents. Note that groundwork is good and gives value. Shrewd Step does give some level of value. It's probably, we have bigger fish to fry, but note that groundwork's probably the better one of the two, and you're probably getting some level of greens anyways. Those speed greens are very good. As a reminder, here are the speed greens on your screen. The big ones are right-handed fall runner and collaborative graded races that you're really looking for. Also the dirt one that gives you for having high power. We'll see it on Ricky later. I don't remember what that one is. Solid Steps, I think is what it's called. Those four are the speed greens, and those are the ones you should be looking for. For mid-race, this is where pace chasers have a lot of it. Let me grab a drink real quick. Sorry about that. Sometimes my voice dies and I get a little bit, but we have a lot of different options as a pace chaser. The big ones are See You Later, Unlight Hello, which everyone should be taking on any roll, as well as Unstoppable on the Agnes Tachyon speed card. Otherwise, you can get a utility card, although it's very difficult. El Contrapaso will give you an absolute ton of power and will give you killer tunes. This is also on a Meisho Doto stamina card we'll talk about later. Otherwise, Umastan, Top Pick, Burning Soul, which is on the Rudolph stamina card. Tail Held High, Nothing Ventured on the Festa Wit card. It's on, Latch On, Slipstream, or Down in the Dirt, which is the dirt version of Slipstream. Those are all good mid-race options, and in general, a general mid-race race, note that Latch On usually will be slightly better because most likely it procs very early in the position where you're trying to start buying for final passes before that late race so you don't end up white swinging. Only thing that you really shouldn't really try is Aspire. Aspire is only a 0.05, so it's not really too efficient. We can talk about its conditions in a later date, but consider it like the Daring Strike where the gold is not out. It is a 0.25, so you subtract 0.2, which means it's basically shredded, so you don't really get very much value whatsoever, even though it does have long duration and it does speed carryover. But still, this is very finicky. It's very, very difficult. You have to be within 4 lengths of the lead, so it's rather risky. 0.05 does give 0.48, which is, I guess it's on par. I didn't really take a look as much as I should, but I guess it's on par, but it's just a lot harder conditions, so prioritize it much less than the rest of the mid-race. But I guess it is the same. Well, sometimes we find things on the fly that are a little bit better than we thought, but again, this condition's a lot harder than the rest of these. For corners, all corner skills are generally fine. You will basically have a 1 in 2 chance to hit in the mid-race and a 1 in 4 chance to hit in the late race. This looks really scary, this dead zone, but really if you hit your acceleration, it's kind of cut in half, so you'll find that most times you will not go and get eaten by the excel zone. And also, of course, you have that little bit in corner 3. If you hit corner 3 and it procs at the first timing on corner 3, you will get speed carryover for your corner skills. So all corner skills, pro curb, pace chaser corners, bid corners, all good. Straights are pretty much the same thing. There is actually speed carryover on straights, and of course it can PDM break you at the start, although it's very, very unlikely. So straights probably slightly better than corners, in fact, to be perfectly honest, because you do have speed carryover chance. It is a little bit more chance of speed carryover because of just the way the corners work, and you do have of course, it becomes late race and it can PDM break you at the start. It pretty much has the best of all worlds. It's very unlikely with this many timings as well that it gets clipped by the end of the race as well. So I find straights to be rather good on this particular track. For late race, you do need some level of late race. Some options that you have, one that a lot of people are going to do are Fine Motion Speed Star. Note that there isn't really a dead zone because the final corner you should be pretty close to the max speed. Now you will get it possibly clipped a little bit, but you will get at least some value, although this is very, very expensive. So even if she gives you Prepared to Pass, just use the skill points on other skills. Come What May is given by the scenario link by running any form of Agnes Tachyon. You probably should pick it up. It's very good, as well as Nothing Ventured for the Festa card, as we said. Steadfast and Unyielding has gotten a little better now that it is, you just have to be a pass target for 2 times. It's like the reverse tail ultimate, but it's still not as efficient as other options as it seems. So I prefer come what may, and it's given by the scenario. A lot of times you're going to be running out of skill points, and I think there's plenty of options for you to go for. IBAM as well, or Homestretch Haste. Those are very good if you can get a couple of hints on it as well. Other options, most people are probably going to grab a Noguri Cat parent. I highly suggest it because they are going to have higher affinity than a lot of other parents, but obviously any late race ultimate that's a 0.25 is recommended. The pass ultimate should be perfectly fine because they should proc slightly late on that final corner. Because you're got to finish a pass in order to do so. It's not going to proc immediately a lot of times. Shooting Star, of course, is a hybrid current speed and excel ultimate. Solid Steps is a green skill that is rather easy to proc if you hit the 1000 plus stamina or the 1201, 1000 plus power threshold, or 1201 plus for the bonus to get you that bonus. Actually, I think it's 0.4 lengths with the plus 60 that it gives you. Full Tilt as well is the is basically the old Homestretch Haste, but it's for dirt only. There's plenty of new skills that this dirt one has done that I had to look into, so apologies that this has kind of been rambling on, but there's just a lot of different options for you to grab. Otherwise, Bark Roll of Blessings is very good as well for paces. You will be in top 4 in the positions in which you are winning. Note that I did say that final corners in general are safe, but if you're immediately proccing final corners, think stuff like Measure McQueen base ultimate and Win QED inherits and stuff, you will have a part of it that will be eaten by the Excel Zone. This is with a perfect proc no stopping me, or which would be considered pretty close to that of a Christmas Ogre Cap as well. You will have at least like a third of it be eaten. So do note that they are slightly less value. You can see it's kind of giving it as a 0.38 instead of a 0.4, 0.45 or whatever. So you're losing about 10 to 20%. It's nothing too major. It's just do know that you will be slightly eaten and have a little bit less value. For scenario, I kind of split this up a bit because this is going to be this is going to slowly increase over the course of the Champions meetings, but the ones that you really should be looking for are Power. Racing Spirit Power is good. Although your Pace Chasers is going to be tough, you're probably in the first place, so this is more of a backliner thing. The big ones are probably Eyes on the Goal. Glittering Star is okay. It gives you a little bit of recovery, but that's mostly for gambling options. Racing Spirit Speed is very good because it has a higher chance of speed carryover. Again, everything is kind of expensive in the scenario stuff, so if you have high hint level, you can go for it. The only one I don't really suggest is Racing Spirit Guts. Ig Power, Ig Guts can be used as secondary accelerations to help with your primary accelerations. Racing Spirit Stamina, do note that it does burn 100 stamina, although it is a 0.45, so it is rather powerful. It's just I don't know how we're going to get that much stamina. It's very risky to take it. So these are them on the screen. I don't think any of them is like particularly required. It's just they're kind of nice to have if you've been building parents. A big thing this CM is going to be finding recoveries, and a lot of the recoveries, they pretty much all work. You have a lot of good options as a pace chaser. That's one of their strengths. You have, of course, corner recovery, swinging maestro, preferred position, and hydrate are the two pace chaser ones that are in addition to the rest of the field, and they're generally front half, so you won't have to worry about them not proccing in the positions that you're winning unless you're running like triple pace chaser or a bunch of front runners. Do note that Track Blazer is given by Silent Suzuka in any form as a scenario link. You won't be able to take come what may, and it's also third or better, so I would consider it unreliable unless you know what you're doing and you're really going for like groundwork combos and trying to be in the front of the pack during all the mid-race possible that you can. So it is an option if that's the only one that you can get, but I would much prefer any level of white, like stamina skills is better than anything else. We'll talk about this a little bit more in the card section. Speaking of the card section, if you don't have Light Hello, you should be borrowing it. It is a scenario mechanic. It's pretty much required at 0 LB plus for the SSR version. She gives See You Later, which is playtimes over gold, very good skill, and Pace Chaser Savvy on end of first year if you're able to, like in every run, because if she doesn't appear in first year, it's probably not going to go very well. But once we have Light Hello, hopefully you do have a copy of this. For speed cards, Agnes Tachyon is going to be your bread and butter. I think you should be running a copy of this for Unstoppable, but also because literally every single one of her hints and her event chains is something useful, with the exception of possibly Tether. You have both corners, you have mid straights, you have head on, Unstoppable, of course, up tempo, which is Killer Tunes White, Pace Chaser Straights. This will pretty much fill out your entire pool worth of stuff over the course of a run. You will not run out of things to take just from running this card. After that, Kiddos in Black gives you Pro Curve and Straightaway Adept, of course, and a bunch of other options, and probably one of the better cards for speed if you're just looking to get your rainbows and have consistent runs. Otherwise, you do have Myono Top Gun. If you do own a high LB copy of that, it's not bad because it does give you a 50-50 for head-on and Nimble Nav and Straight Adept. Otherwise, you're just running your best speed card at that point. If you're free to play, Toast Jordan, do not sleep on it. It does give Breath of Fresh Air on a Agima Sen, so try to get your speed up, which you should be getting your speed up, which means you should be getting Breath of Fresh Air rather consistently, and does give a bunch of medium skills. So try this card out, see how it feels. It's mostly a third speed card option. But as a free-to-play, this is probably the way you're getting your primary gold recovery. Otherwise, you do have El Condor Pasta Speed if you have a high LB copy for a bunch of pace hints, and try to run SP bonus at that point for Sweep Tosho if you have that. If you own the Special Week card and you somehow don't own any other card on this list in this zone, like Kidus and Black and stuff, I don't know how, because this was the first card pretty much ever released in the game, but does give an Agame Sen for Gourmand as well. Otherwise, just run your best SR training cards like Sweep to Shinko Windy and King Halo and the like. Pretty much all of them are relatively fine to use. For Wit cards, the primary one's probably going to be either Teo Wit for those who are pulling on that banner, gives an alternative for Professor of Curvature, or we are running Fine Motion, who gives Prepared to Pass or Speed Star, depending on how she's feeling that day. But mostly, this card gives you Right-Handed, which is a speed green that works, Fall Runner, which is a speed green that works, as well as Outer Post Proficiency, which is speed green that works 45% of the time. Nimble Nav and Corner Adept as well on Event Chain and Hint, respectively. Nothing Ventured is very good on the Nakafesta, mostly because of the 1 skill point bonus, and otherwise you just kind of want to run the best Wit card that you have. If you have a 1 LB plus copy of CB, that will be very useful as well this scenario. If you are free to play, or I shouldn't say free to play anymore, if you need to fill out your stuff with SR cards and stuff, don't sleep on Fukuhitaru Wit. She has very high initial friendship gauge, which really helps get you your currency early. She is borderline as good as those SSR cards at lower LBs, basically. Right-Handed Guaranteed is a nice little bonus, but mostly it is the 40 init friendship that gives you all those additional currencies early. Otherwise, if you're not running Tachyon Speed for some reason, Tachyon Wit will also give you the scenario link and has skill point bonus. Fuji does give skill point bonus as well. You can try to get groundwork using the new decently training good card Saiyan Sky, but also probably Daiwa Scarlet Wit is the other option that you're running if you're pure free to play. For stamina cards, you run a stamina card instead of a 3 speed 2 wit deck if your sparks do not get you to the level of stamina that you need, which for us is probably almost everybody. I think even I'm running stamina cards on most of my characters, but Swinging Maestro on Super Creek in general has kind of the best stamina trainings at the moment, so she's probably the most powerful card in general because you don't even have to tap that much on her. You can kind of focus on your speed still, and she will give you enough stamina in which Swinging Maestro will go and finish off the amount of stamina that is required. If you're trying to go and be a little bit more fancy, you may try the Symboli Rudolph stamina card, because Burning Soul is basically a gambling 2/3 recovery that does give you that bonus gold speed skill. It does require block side continue time, so I recommend running multiple pace chasers if you are doing that, mid corners, mid straights as well. Otherwise, you want to run your best stamina card at that point. If you are trying to fill out with some welfare cards, Man Cafe SR is probably what most people are going to use. It doesn't really give you many skills, but it does have very high specialty priority and decent stamina training. Something that I figured out today is that there is a Wellfell card. If you were playing during the New Year's event back in the day and you have a high LB copy of it, it is basically the same exact training as Man Cafe, just less specialty priority, which can be considered a buff with high training effectiveness because it will help your speed and wit taps, but it's just kind of a roamer card that will give you, on a high roll run, it will give you enough times on stamina to get you over that hump, basically, to get there. It does not give you a recovery, it gives you Killer Tunes, which is a very good mid-race skill option. So consider this like a high roll option. If you played this, I would suggest this over the Man Cafe. If it's becoming too finicky, then perhaps try going back to Man Cafe, but I think that there is enough value on this card in its hints and its main skill to at least try a couple runs and do it. It was working for the very few runs that I have done and used it. Tosin Jordan as well has slightly better trainings than both of these. It is newer, so most people don't have this one, but it does give a bunch of pace chaser hints. ZRR is slightly behind, but does give a couple of hints as well. For utility cards, as I am calling them, this is kind of the category. This is your one slot that you have. Mostly you're running this as a stamina card, but you can also, if you believe you have enough stamina sparks, you can kind of go and run a power card mostly. I have Bijan Wit, as you didn't if you didn't notice in the wit section, I didn't talk about it because it doesn't really have enough output to be considered a wit card. You are running utility cards for the gold skills, and these gold skills generally range from a recovery, like in the case of Vodka, who has good power trainings but mostly is there for Bofa, or Rice Shower, who has decent power trainings but mostly gives you a bunch of stamina by pressing power and giving you Swinging Maestro, or the very, very powerful gold skill in No Stopping Me for Bijan Wit, and the Daiwa Power neck and neck. Now, do you need a high LB copy of these utility cards? Well, you're not really pressing them outside of summer anyways, so yes, they're nice to have, but you can try them if you're trying to high roll on like 2LB or 1LB even, and I think you're going to find relatively the same level of output on them. Obviously, Daiwa Power is a very powerful power card at high LB, but you probably want to go and borrow your Agnes Tachyon Speed or something better like a very good wit card over a utility card if you can manage. Otherwise, you do have killer tunes on El Condor Pasta. This is like low priority, or you have Lead the Charge if you really want the white version of it. I would suggest just trying to loop it in Parents instead. For some example decks, Grand Live is not the most flexible scenario in the world. 3-speed, 2-wit, light hello is the baseline. Now, I think most of us are not going to be able to hit stamina requirements with this, so normally what you do is you kind of fill it with either a utility card, like Daiwa Power, that gives you stamina as well because it has stamina bonus, or you fill it with Super Creek. I think this is going to be the primary deck most of us run in terms of composition, not in terms of these are ridiculous whale cards, right? And we're going to start lowering the power level to kind of figure out where each of us are, because every deck is going to be different. Every person has different cards. But if we take this and we kind of make this a little more reasonable, we're probably going to have Kiss in black instead of Marazensky, and we're probably borrowing something like a second wit card like Mr. CB instead of just Tokai Teo, if that makes sense, because, you know, this gives a ton of speed as well. Or we're going to be borrowing Super Creek. If you have a good wit card, you can pair that up with Fuku. You're probably going to get enough wit to hit that 1,000, 1,100 range, and then just let your speed cards do their thing. If you have two good speed cards with Light Hello, try to go and borrow a Super Creek and see how it feels, see if you get enough stamina. When you start getting used to the scenario, you may find out that you're able to generate enough stamina without it. At that point, perhaps try Man Cafe, perhaps try one of the welfare stamina cards, and try to borrow your Agnes Tachyon MLB to try to get more skill points and high roll at that point. After that, you may not have any of that, and then we're kind of in pain mode. Try to just do the best that you can. You may even want to dip on a wit card and go solo wit. Your wit's going to be at the 700 to 800 mark. It's not going to be ideal whatsoever, but having enough speed will at least give you a chance of winning, whereas wit is just kind of still a nice to have. You can still roll high on high roll wits. You can't roll high on high speed. So you need to hit your speed threshold, your wit threshold. At the end of the day, it's still quote unquote a luxury stat. It's just one that's going to win you more consistently over time. So we're in the pain mode at this point. If you don't even have Kittison or any level of, if you don't have any SSR cards at the moment, you're going to be really struggling this one. And if you have Kittison, it's in less pain, but like you're probably running some level of 3-2 deck at this point. These have just been a bunch of different like example decks I think that I've been running and I've been having some success with. I hope it's been useful. This was the least put together part of the presentation. I'm gonna grab a drink. Let's talk about characters. All right, let's get the two big ones out of the way. Christmas O'Leary Cap doesn't give you absolutely anything except the recoveries, which are pretty much required on this. The thing is that Festive Miracle is incredibly strong. It has a 777 timing, and that means that its speed carries over and does some acceleration leak, which is very powerful. It is multiple links above the field. The 15% speed bonus is going to help on this scenario. It is dirt beat, so remember to get a dirt spark, otherwise your acceleration is going to be hindered. And basically how you play this character, if you are new to the game and you own this character, she is pretty much a good ticket to a finals if you build her right. But if you hit your stats and you get Gourmand and a guaranteed any guaranteed recovery, which is basically any ones on the top of the list besides these two right here that are position based. So like you basically want to try soft step and you want corner recovery, one of those two, exactly one of those with Gourmand. and 777 and you borrow a tachyon parent to get Uma squared, you have a 96% chance of succeeding on 3 of these 4 wit checks to have a good timing that will leak into the Excel zone and speed carryover, and you will have an additional, I believe it's 4.5 lengths on this track above the rest of the pack sheet. It's very powerful, and because of all these recoveries that you're buying anyways, your stamina requirements are in the 600s rather than the 800s, which really helps in a scenario where we can barely generate any stamina whatsoever. For Kapana Riki, you're on green watch. If you have not been building parents with a bunch of greens in it, now is your time to start building them, and quickly. Pretend you're building a front runner, even if you're building her pace chaser. The reason why you would build her pace chaser is because she comes with 3 instead of 2 greens. You want 6 greens total to get the max value out of her ultimate, and that max value is target speed 0.4 and acceleration 0.15, and it is technically gamble, but half the time it will be speed carryovering roughly, and when that happens you do have roughly a 4 length advantage over the rest of the field. She also does give you a ton of mid-race in her events, and the greens that she does give you are very strong because they also give you speed. Strong steps, because you have very high power, should give you 80 speed if you have 1201, or 60 speed if you have 60 speed if you have 1,000 or more. Collaborative graded races. This is a collaborative graded race track, as well as Pace Chaser Savvy. And then just basically pretend you're building a front runner, add 3 more greens and groundwork, because you might as well try to loop that into your parents anyways. And you'll find you have a very strong Kapana Riki out of the box. The only thing with this one is Kapana Riki needs stamina, because the Christmas Oguri players are probably going to start running Murmur for some reason. Even though it's not efficient, people are going to still run it just to kill off the Kapana Riki. So do try to get a little bit extra stamina than you think, because you will be fighting those debuffers, because people just want to watch the world burn. Christmas Ogre and Kapana Riki, pretty much if they both live, they have roughly the same added to the field. Luck Run My Ways has about 3.5, but realistically this is not taking into account all of the acceleration, so it is closer to the maximum. It's just kind of more gambly, kind of goes like this right here. So somewhere around 3 to 6 lengths is what Luck Run My Way or Kapana Riki gets. Festa Miracle mostly gets 4.45 because it is at the 777 timing. The 6.78 is what happens when you get Gourmand proccing a little bit late. So roughly speaking, they are the same, although Christmas Oguri needs much less stamina, which puts her above the rest of the pack. Now that we've lost over half the viewers at this point, all you Oshi players, here are the ones that at least have some level of dirt aptitude. Taiki Shuttle Camping is very powerful because of Neck and Neck. With Neck and Neck's buff happening so early, this character has kind of gone up in relevance greatly. She has Dirt B, which means you need 1 Dirt Spark, but you're going to be getting a bunch of medium sparks anyways, so you don't have to worry about the medium aptitude. Now, 30% power is beautiful in this scenario because you just run a bunch of speed cards and you get your power and you never have to worry about it. So just grab as many stamina sparks as possible. Joyful Voyage, in the positions where you're winning, is basically a 0.5 Triumphant Pulse. It's better than Triumphant Pulse, and even if it's not, it's still a 0.355 second. But Neck and Neck is what's carrying this character. It is absolutely incredible. Taiki Shuttle is ridiculous. You probably don't need to run her secret event either, because you already have basically head-on in kit, which is the primary reason why you're doing the secret event. Ogre recap. Triumphant Pulse is a good skill. You can run her Late Surger. I probably would suggest running her Late Surger, but her Pace Chaser advantage is that you have a built-in gold recovery. So for ease of building, Ogre Cap is in the Pace Chaser position. Late Surger's probably slightly better, but it just is a lot more effort to do so. You can go and try to run Neck and Neck on this character. She does have the 20% speed bonus to help you out with running 2 speed cards. Dirt B as well requires 1 Dirt Spark. We're getting a little bit more difficult to build, although this character is very powerful. Mayano Top Gun is very good. The problem is Dirt E. You can run her in the Pace Chaser position. She has no Stopping Me in kit, and she has updated Bofa in kit. Bofa is now fixed. Breath of Fresh Air, straightaway recovery, now only procs in the mid race, which means that you will get value from Bofa. So you have a built-in recovery. If you run 1 race in each of the 4 different roles over the course of your career, it has to be G1s, sorry, but she does run 4 G1s. So if you win 4 G1 races, 1 in each of her different roles, you get Changeling, which means you get the acceleration for all 4 of the different roles, which includes head-on as well. In addition, Flashy Landing, although it is a little bit finicky because it is Final Corner and Block Site Continue time, so it doesn't always proc on time. It is just a bonus 0.25 target speed. You won't really get acceleration from it, but the big thing with this character is she has the Fast Learner event, Maya's Love Advice. So if you have over 500 wit-ish, and and this procs somewhat in the middle to the late of the career, you will have Fast Learner, which is an incredible increase in your effective skill points. It's a 10% discount on everything. It's like 300 skill points, and she's basically the only character that can kind of guarantee, quote unquote, this more often than any other character. Wedding variant's probably even better, swinging Maestro and Kit instead. You don't have No Stopping Me, which is a little bit more tough, but what you do have is Flowery Maneuver, which is if you're going to pass on the final corner or later, which is a position where you're going to be at max speed, you're probably getting target speed because you're in the front half of the pack as a pace chaser. She does also get the Maya's Love Advice. You still get the head-on from Changeling. You have Shrewd Step in Kit and Straightaway Adept in Kit, and most importantly, speed and wit bonus. So if you're able to get the Dirt Sparks for it, Mayana Top Gun is just incredibly powerful as the wedding variant on this track. TM Opera O New Year's. This is basically the situation where you're running the character, you're putting the ult on everybody. Barker of Blessings is your closing speed. It is very powerful. It is a ridiculous amount of speed now that they buffed it to 5 seconds. It's a 5-second 0.45 at 400 meters. You will be proccing 7 skills, so you will be getting that bonus 0.15 or 0.45. A gold recovery in the kit. What's there not to like? Well, you have Dirt E aptitude. You need a few Dirt Sparks, but other than that, 14% speed, 8% wit, and having that bonus 8% in stamina, if you're running a single stamina card, you're going to find that you do get a little bit more stamina than the rest of the field, and it's going to just kind of help you out in trying to hit that threshold. Regular Opera O kind of is playing a different game. 20% stamina. It's kind of there, I guess, if you have very low stamina sparks, you can run like a Super Creek, and then pressing the stamina button should give you an absolute ton of stamina, and you should be able to hit the threshold. Now, Team Opera O doesn't have as good of an ultimate. It's only a 0.35. You're most likely going to proc this in the Biwa Hide, like immediate final corner timing, so you will lose a little bit, but sometimes you won't. So sometimes this will late proc, but not as good of an ultimate, but does have Speedstar and Killer Tunes, which is mid-race and late race in the kit as well. So a lot of point sinks here. You don't necessarily even need Fine Motion on this character either. If you don't own it, you can try other different things with the Speedstar. I would try it out. If you own Team Opera, this may be the time to run her as in the pace chaser position if you're trying to look for something different. Meisho Doto is still pretty much a gamble character. Now, I Never Goof Up is technically final corner or later, so if you don't pass anybody somehow on the late race corner or later, if you don't somehow pass somebody almost immediately, I Never Goof Up will still give you speed value is what I'm trying to say. I Never Goof Up is still very finicky in terms of relying on it as an acceleration, but because we don't care about mile anymore, Doto being a medium and long distance track runner means you only have to focus on the Dirt Sparks, and she does have Speedstar in kit. Now, Indomitable is a little better than people think. If you run multiple pace chasers, they will be vying for position, and most likely, if you have a relatively similar strength Umas in the same position, they're going to be passing each other back and forth. So Indomitable, the HP recovery is not technically 100%, which is why you wouldn't put on the Christmas Oguri. It will proc most times because of this. You will get passed at some point in the mid-race, so do not worry about that. So gold recovery in kit means very good with an ultimate that has a high roll potential. Ayano Mateki has a closer ultimate, not as good as Triumph and Pulse, of course, but it's still perfectly fine, and her big thing is having a ton of mid-race in its on. Home Stretch Haste is the late race, of course, PTO, on events, Pace Chaser Corners, Steadfast, even if you really want to take it, but having its on in kit is very, very nice because it's a rather unique one, considering really the only source of it is on power cards, and I guess there's that one Mambo Wit card that I try not to talk about because I don't think it's very good, but power, 20%, very good on a speed wit deck. I think you're not going to have too much trouble building this character once you're able to get the Dirt aptitude up. I think the next two should be run as backline, but if you're trying to run an RE1, do note that your kind of bonus is that Tail 9 is above everyone else. There's no real source of getting the gold version of Tail held high. Now we're cruising, if you duel at all, is a Tri-Pulse. Now, Master of the Sands, this is actually the time where Master of the Sands is relevant because it's a dirt track and it's a recovery with target speed. You're not going to proc it as pace because you need to be back half of the pack. So that's why I suggest running her as a backliner. Agnes Digital, OMG The Final Sprint is a very powerful ultimate with some lane movement that can kind of cut your wide swing off, as well as some target speed when you do pass two people. Now, Super Stand and Kit is her kind of putting it above the rest of the pack. No one has access to Gold Uma Stand. It is still a very efficient early race skill, even though we are not PDM breaking with it, and a ton of mid-race in the kit. But do notice that all this mid-race, including Lead the Charge, which is the acceleration in the late race, is not position bound. This can be done in the late surger position, in which she has more skills as well, or in the end closer position if you're looking for even more closing speed. So do take that into account. I think I prefer Agnes Digital as a late surger, but do note that my late surger bias. Summer McQueen, hard all set does not work because it's long bound. Even though it is pace bound, it is also long bound. Your Smile Sparkles as the waves on a 2,000 meter track will not speed carry over, even if it procs slightly late. So you have to proc this at like exactly the 60% mark to speed carry over with it, and it's only 0.15. So it's just kind of general mid-race. You can technically build this character. It is very difficult to do so. The other McQueen I'd probably go and run as a front runner instead, if I remember correctly. I think so. That's the way to do it. But I will go and check on that on the front runner video. Otherwise, PTO and kit and gives absolutely nothing else except for speed and wit bonus. But it's certainly viable if you're able to build it. You just have a clean slate. El Condorpasa. The problem you're going to have is Victoria Porplancha requires energy to spare, which means you need to have at least 30% of your energy. If anything bad happens to you whatsoever in terms of debuffs, you're going to find that you're not going to proc your ultimate because you're going to have less than 30% in that final straight. And in general, you're not going to have 30% without getting additional gold recoveries, which I guess you could say you are buffering for various different like debuffs and stamina debuffs, but it's not necessarily the best strategy in general. So I don't think she really has an ultimate this time, but technically 20% speed bonus and 10% whip bonus, it will probably make her pretty easy to build for you Pasa fans. This probably still is the one that you build over the other one because of that 20% speed bonus, but you are pretty much vanilla Pace Chaser with, granted, a lot of different skills and kit, and people forget that in the Pace Chaser position she does come with Calm and Collected, which is soft step, and soft step as well. So she has the recoveries. She just needs to get the skills in order to actually go and win the race. For Pasta Fantasy, just play her as late surger. If you're going to play this character who doesn't really have an ultimate this Champions meeting, at least play her in the position where Rising Dragon can be used to actually go and give her some late race speed. Smart Fel can play as front runner. Most of her stuff is first place, so you're not going to be going for lucky pace too much. If you do, you know what you're doing, so I suggest Smart Falcon as front runner. Gold City I suggest as late surger because the regular one has Keep It Real, which has position bound fourth, which shouldn't be in Pace Chaser positioning, and the festival version has Lie in Wait, which is a gold recovery, which is a huge advantage for late surgers because it is very difficult for them to acquire their actual recoveries at this point. It is 3rd through 7th, and it's block site continue time, so it's a little finicky as well, and it's only speed as well. So you're not really losing anything. I was just running Gold City as the late surger position. Taiki alt no worky, so try to run the camping one if you own her. Otherwise, you're a vanilla Pace Chaser. And the Dirt Afumas that I think are relevant are Measure Arden, who does technically burn through about 50 stamina, but because she has 20 wit and 10 speed, she's actually rather powerful, and she has Race Planner and kit for Pace Chasers as well, and Come What May as well, as I guess technically if you don't get it from Tachyon, you would have it in her kit immediately. Okay, so Measure Ardent I think is rather powerful with the 0.45 late race ultimate, and Fuji Kaseki Ballroom is safe just like Narita Bryan, and she does technically have F Dirt, so she is able to be gone and built in the Dirt CM as well, although it will be a little bit more difficult and requires very good parent affinity. She does have just too many skills in kit for me not to talk about, with Ravissant being a very powerful final corner path skill. So that's all the characters I want to talk about. I may have missed some skills. I may have missed some characters. Do note those in the comments. And also, if you're looking for everything and you have questions, feel free to put them in the comments. There are a lot of helpful people that do help me out with that. I know it's just community members. And I will try to get to them when I can. Otherwise, here is your final checklist. Again, try to get at least 1,000 power and at least 1,000 wit. I find that power is probably a little more important for that, but after 1,200 power, you don't really get too much because your mood will go and give you that little bonus extra 40 to 50 that has increased additional value. Otherwise, your kind of stats go, get your speed up, get your stamina required for the race, whatever level you want to arbitrage against debuffs, and then go and get your wit up and your power. Finally, guts is the least important out of all of them. Try to get a gold recovery for debuff safety if you wish, or try to pump your stamina very, very high if you're really, really good at the scenario and can get a lot of different, can get a lot of stats in general. It kind of depends on the deck you're running. For primary accelerations, you probably want at least white, head-on, and nimble nav, or both. Golds for both of those are better, but they're not 100% required. You can just supplement them with the various different dirt accelerations. Otherwise, grab mid-race, grab some late race. Speed greens are very, very good. Power greens are very, very good as well. And then try to get a groundwork if you can. It's not required whatsoever, but you're going to find actually quite a bit of value out of groundwork. After that, try to get some secondary accelerations, egg power, forward march. You are trying to go and beat a Christmas O'Gurry that is hitting 0.3, so you do need something supplementary than a just white acceleration 0.2 in order to go and match them. So you're going to beat them by getting more late race than them. You're going to beat them by getting more acceleration than them, and try to speed carry over best you can. It's kind of the same way you're playing the game. Every single medium's kind of the same in that way. It's kind of difficult with Christmas O'Gurry, but it is not completely dead. You will be able to win if you go and hit very hard on this track. So that has been the Pace Chaser guide. It's been the first one I've done in a while, so thanks for bearing with me. This is also the first Grand Live one, so there will be things that it misses, and check the corrections in the pinned comment down below. After that, probably running the Late Surger guide and Front Runner guide and End Closer guides in any particular order that I see fit. It shouldn't be but a few days from now anyway. So I will be going and trying to work on those best I can, with probably a video in between. So I hope you enjoyed the Pace Chaser guide. All that is left is for me to thank my members. Memberships are appreciated and never required. For those who are in the board tier, I do shout them out at the overview video, but with Lucy just giving me a bunch of stuff, it's made my job a little bit harder every single time. So I will be going and still reading them out in the specific role guides at this time. So thank you especially to those board members: KickazIRL, Immobility, Mr. Merritt, Crescent Gautier, Lucifel, Peter Van San, Oscar Van Bruce, Misha Sage, CD Ogren, Sorcerer, Elise Bright, Eta Pete, Astrosarian, Eva Delta, Scrap X, It's Bella Knox, Curlicious, Galsburr, Howie Tori, Boss Corgi, Zinni, TF, Dark Wabbits, Brandy Boffin, Tony Lim, Dialectical, Sleepy Bat, Pavi, Trevor Overtone, Ogre, Capizza Burger, Dalgante, Jeffrey Ism is the Goat, PH Bant C, Giras, Arientes, the Real Meisho Doto, Awex Gubbs, Tokai Teo Monarch, and Velio. So thank you all. Thank you again to just a special shout out to Lucifel, who did donate a bunch of different gifted memberships to people. That's why this list has been growing a lot. And of course, to everyone for watching. Good luck in this Champions meeting. Hopefully I'll get the other guides out rather quickly. Take care, everyone. Burb out.